Glenn, just to...
Well, I think the other way...
That's correct.
Jim,
You're
no.
thinking,
I
right?
think the other way of saying the same thing I was talking
Get
about,
right to you.
Bill, was that trade show marketing gives us access to 8,000, 10,000 physicians at the most, with all the trade shows, all right? But there are 650,000 physicians out there.
Gotta get to 'em.
And heavens knows how many of them want to invest in something that's going to be beneficial. So with electronic marketing, you have access to 650,000. With trade shows, you're reaching 8 or 10. Now, you know, you have to build some things into it because the people that you are going to have a higher frequency potential for buying because of their specialty. But you can't ignore the fact that electronic marketing in today's age is giving you access to 650,000 physicians, which you could never have had before this electronic age.
Right.
Just so there's a clear understanding of how it works in medicine today.
Yeah.
The GP can send out for an MRI, but a lot of the insurance companies and networks insist that if an MRI is required, it must go to the specialist to write that prescription. That's where they work in these groups. In other words, if you need an MRI, you may have to only be referred to a spine specialist or an orthopedic specialist.
But that's
in
not
every
universal.
case. Not in every case.
Right.
But if you're in a large insurance carrier,
Okay.
they have certain rules of HMOs and things like that. Just so it's not a blanket rule that everybody can do.
Right.
They can, but
Right.
sometimes you have to work with, like the chiropractors sometimes work
Yeah.
with pain
Yeah,
management
but
docs to do that.
just so you have some perspective here, you should also know that on the way is serious antitrust litigation against physicians for doing this sort of thing. You can have this and you can do that. Only a radiologist can have an MRI, a surgeon can't. I'm telling you that there's court action right now. There's a...
Against the insurance companies.
Well, they're the ones who are doing it.
You know, that's what it's against, not the GP.
No, but there's a major class action lawsuit, which I understand was just won in the state of Florida, where the physicians group practices brought an action that it was an interference with free trade, where the insurance companies were arbitrarily denying the payment on claims on, quote, medical necessity, and badly damaging the medical profession. Best I can tell from what I just read, the physicians won because from what I read in this legal portrayal, the terms of a settlement had been reached in this class action Florida suit. And when I read the terms of the settlement, and the terms of the settlement is basically, you won't do this anymore.
Dr. Green,
Yeah.
can you give me a copy of that?
Yeah, sure.
It's in my territory.
Yeah, I will.
I want to go back to the same point, because we're all guilty of the same thing, myself included, because we've been in the trenches so long.
Right.
We can't underestimate the power of what you're telling us today, cold call.
Yeah.
All right? We can't go into this saying to ourselves, he's not going to buy, or he's not going to buy for this reason, he's not going to buy for that reason. If every one of us got on the phone and made these calls religiously every day, and we didn't succeed in selling the machine, we at least succeeded in getting the word out there. I think everybody agrees that if everybody woke up tomorrow, literally everybody in this country woke up tomorrow and knew about the existence of upright MRI, we would be an overnight success. Is that acceptable?
I think so.
So if you hang up the phone and you haven't succeeded in, getting to an appointment to sell that person a scanner, you've told that person about the scanner. Maybe that person will send patients, or maybe that person's brother-in-law or sister-in-law is a doctor.
Yep.
And you can tell them about the scanner that you sold to Dr. So-and-so in your community. So we have to break these old habits that have taken 18 years to get ingrained in our souls.
Right.
And learn the power of being proactive, like you said. Pick up the phone and call and call and call. That's what I think we're trying to communicate.
Let me elaborate on what Lou said.
Sure.
Because early on in my young life, I was a full of brush salesman. When somebody tells me, when somebody tells me I don't do a cold call,
That was all. Did you throw the stuff in the door?
My whole business was cold call. I don't know what you're talking about. You don't do a cold call.
Right.
But the second dimension is an important one that Lou made, which is if every salesman sits down and spends 2 weeks cold calling, you'll learn what the general marketplace has to say to you. You will learn the details of cold calling. You will learn the success of the cold calling. But most importantly, you will learn the whole procedure of cold calling so that when you then hire somebody to do the cold calling for you, you will know exactly what to expect of them. So I strongly advise that you take a week or two out and do nothing but cold calling, just to find out what it does.
If I could, just one thing to add first, Bill. And this brings up a point. We talked about what would be the best way and the quickest way to double your sales that you had already out there. I would think the most guaranteed way to double sales would be to make sure every machine you've sold is 80% full.
Absolutely.
So if you were making these calls in your territory, now the scope of it, like the doctor said, is hundreds of thousands. You're not expected to do that. You don't need those numbers in a year. In a few thousand, you're going to get plenty for what you need. But if you were to make your focus, let's say surgeons was one that you wanted to go after, in the process that I'll give you that we've already been experiencing, I can show you that it's simple cold calling. This isn't even difficult cold calling. I mean, there's some jobs of cold calling that are tough. You have so many things that they would want to see that it opens up the door. It's not even going to be a negative experience. Imagine. So few had even heard of it. So if you're talking to a doctor, immediately there should be some excitement in his office. They should be ready to have that interaction at some level. And I'm telling you what, guys, it generates leads. Who hasn't ever had to cold call in their business career? Is there anybody who hadn't had to cold call? Every time you sat down and did it, did you have success with having people to go find and say? Who didn't have any success? Well, cold call, I got to ask the questions this way, so I know by raise of hand. Who didn't have success with cold calling when they had to generate leads? That's what I figured. If you're a professional, seasoned person, you know. I could right now I would feel nothing strange by letting everybody in the room listen to me doing it. I would get on the phone right now out of the phone book, and I would guess in a half a day's calling, we'd have 2 appointments to go see.
And initially, just so the guys don't get frustrated, start off, spend 2-3 hours a day.
Yeah, build to it.
You know,
right.
Don't spend the whole day being cooped up for 8 hours, but spend 2 or 3 hours a day and make your 50 or 100 phone calls.
And can I make one suggestion? Do not cold call just because you're at home in clothes that are not your suit that you work in. Put on your work clothes when you're doing this. There is a major, major difference. Paul Harvey taught that, actually. He built a studio when he was ready to retire in his home. And he figured, now I don't have to go in. He came in his pajamas and his slippers, and he said he saw his ratings drop. He went back to putting on his suit at home every morning, right back up. So absolutely, be dressed as if you're going to work. Now, I don't